This is a ResMed. It's a model Bella Vista NSW 2153 made in Australia. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. Normally, when you see how to put something together or take it apart, they take it apart, you get to watch them disassemble it, and then they say put it back together the same way you took it apart. So today we've already disassembled it, and so now we're going to put it back together, and you'll see the steps in that process. Okay, so one thing nice about this particular device is that all of the screws are exactly the same size, so you don't have to worry about keeping track of which screw goes where. They're all interchangeable. The other thing that I noticed is that this plug, I'll have to work my way to it. Let's see. This plug, one-handed here. This plug, this is the face of the machine as you take it apart, has a plug on this end that you will end up unplugging. As soon as you get any tension on this, you want to immediately reduce any tension and make sure that you unplug this, and you'll see where it plugs in as I go back together, because this end of the plug also will come undone, but it is much more difficult to plug in. So it's been re-plugged in now, and it's ready for reassembly at this point. Okay, so I am going to set my camera up. Oh, the original problem was, and I have no idea if it's been solved or not, is that when the machine is on, it whines, or hopefully it'll be past tense that it whined. As I breathed in, it made more noise, and as I exhaled, it made less noise, but it was loud enough that it would keep me from being able to sleep. And that's the whole reason why you get these silly machines, is so you sleep better. I was very impressed with how isolated the motor is, and how many painstaking engineering features there are to prevent any noises. So I have no idea if I've solved the problem or not. I don't know. I took the motor out and I blew air through it so that if there was something in it that was causing a whining noise, I'm hoping that it is now not there anymore. Okay, so we're going to reposition the camera and start the process. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is put together something that I did not need to take apart. This is the heater that helps humidify, and it is completely separate from everything else. Did not need to be taken apart at all. So I'm making a mistake. This is the plate that goes in, that these two plates come together inside the CPAP. So just make sure this is tucked in nicely. Put this back together and not have to deal with it anymore. This is a T10, and again, because all of the screws are the same size, it's the only tool that I really use the whole time. I don't like to force plastic. If it doesn't want to go down the first time real good, then I'll back off and click one more time. There we go, like that. So it shouldn't be giving you much resistance going back together. If it is, probably in a different set of threads, you should back out so that you can go in more easily. So those are all done by hand, back in again. And then we will go ahead and give it a little bit of tightening effort there. No clicks, there's no torque wrench here. Okay, so I don't have to deal with that anymore. There's a little hook here that goes in thusly, and then one more right there, and then that's ready to be plugged into the circuit board when it flips over here. There's a receptacle for it right here, but right now this has to stay out of the way. And I'm going to turn this up on end just because it's going to make it easier for me to put this assembly back in. So again, the motor, I mentioned I blew air through it both directions. I'm hoping the noise is gone. That's what this was all about. So this is a piece of very soft rubber, and it suspends the motor so that it shouldn't be able to rattle or buzz or anything, but it does. Did. I hope it's just a good thing. So this would be the intake on the motor, and this would be the exhaust that creates that continuous positive air flow. CPAP, continuous positive air pressure. Okay, so this is where it's coming out. There's two tabs here and one tab here, and there's really no, there's a tab here too, but it's on the opposite side of the tube. So anyway, I'm just saying this is where between these two, the two and the one here, this spot where my finger is where this wiring harness needs to come out. So I'm going to just push that on, just like that. And then all I've done was folded that down. So now I'm going to fold this back up. And now that motor is tucked in there nicely. Okay, we're going to take this pressure end, exhaust, whatever. I'm going to just push this in, just push it in like that, and it should collapse on itself. And so that makes a nice little piece so that it will go through that hole. If it was open, I wouldn't be able to push it through. So anyway, and we just push that through, and now we tuck it out. And this is the piece that will now rest against this and push the air through all the hoses and into your face. All right, so now we're going to put the cover on. The wire goes through here, and you just line it up the way it's put together here. Okay, and then you take these wires, and it's important to have the wires come out in this area so that they can tuck in to this little padded slot. And then there's a channel that they need to make sure they all get in that little slot there. You don't want anybody running off. Okay. All right, and then we want to take this foam pad. Again, everything is very, very isolated from anything hard. I'm just really having trouble figuring out how, and the motor itself had to be making the noise. It's the only thing. I think I'm going to wind up getting a new CPAP. All right, so all that's together. Now this, as this comes together here, there is a notch right here. It's notched so that those wires can come through. So if, as you put it together, make sure that the wires are in that notch. If they're not, you're going to cut wires. That would not be a happy thing. Okay, wrong. Okay, it goes in. I don't want to stick it in here. Okay, so that channel goes in here. Spins around. We've got the wires coming out. That slot is there. The wires are nice and protected. Push that on. Okay, so the motor is in its mount, suspended from against, it's not against anything hard that it could rattle against. So there we go. 3 screws. 1, 2, and 3. And again, it's always a good idea going back together that we do things with our fingers. So if it's too hard, we can back off. Okay. So none of these are being easy after they get to a certain point. I'm not going to belabor that. We're just going to use the tool. Just 3 screws. I'm not worried about a pattern. For tightening, so make sure it all comes down evenly. Okay, so that's together. That looks good. Nothing got pinched. All right, and you've got this little piece that helps this wire get where it's supposed to go. And so you have a round and you have a square. The round goes on the long post and the square goes on, each wire is on the right side, and the square goes on the shorter one. And these wires come around here and tuck into the slot that is available. Just didn't want to stay there. Okay, because it'll plug in. It'll plug in just like that once it gets there. Okay. And now we got this piece. So we're going to, you've got a hole with a post, and that hole with the post goes right here. The post goes in the guiding hole, and it should just give you a little snap. Uh-oh, I can let this jump out. It has to be inside. Hello. Okay. Just a little snap going in. There we go. Oh, okay, and there, there's also a little channel here that this needs to slide into. So make sure it does that. Okay, and then it'll snap. There we go. That's why it wasn't snapping before. All right, and then this is jumped out as well, but I think I can get it to go without a disassembly. There we go. All right. That looks good. All right, these, don't want to forget this. This is, I'm sure these are the ports that are used for instrumentation, for calibration. of the positive pressure. So those go to the sensors. All right. So this now will snap in, goes directly in the same little channel here that was used for the motor. You got one here on the end of the CPAP, and this will be where we will eventually put a new filter. So this slides into that. These little tabs here go underneath the mount for the motor. So we just slide that in the slot. Always easier said than done. Okay, who's bucking me here? Okay, I just need to pick that up a little bit. So you do have to pull up on the tank, on the motor assembly just a little bit to let that one get underneath. There we go. And it's in. I'll kind of leave that loose so I can move it around, putting the rest of the pieces back on. Okay, now this whole assembly belongs, this is the back of the unit. There's a ribbon here, and you need to make sure that it rolls up into its little, there's a little slot here where it's coming out here, and it rolls around that slot and up. So it sits just like that. Okay. And then I mentioned before the plug that you wanted to be careful with. I may wind up taking this back off again to get that plug on. So we're going to do that. So there's a plug here, and this plug that I mentioned earlier that you want to be careful with it because you don't want it to unplug. We're going to go ahead and just slide that in. And I do have a pair of long nose pliers to help me with that. Okay, buddy, be nice. You're just going to push it. It is snapped. And again, we're going to stand this up like this. While I've got it here, I'm going to plug this one in. That's the power for the motor. So on the corner here is the plug for the motor. It hasn't snapped in yet, so we're going to go till it snaps. Okay. And then we're going to put this back in its little slot, wiggle the motor mount a little bit to get that to drop in. Okay, we're good. All right, we're going to put this face on. It's framed. It's got a corner here and a corner here that's got to go into. We've got the SD card slot that has to extend out here and the other here. I mentioned earlier that we had the portals that go into the sensors. So we're going to pull this face. We're going to push this back, and we're going to pull the. Let me point out again some of the wiring organization here. You want to make sure that these wires are going underneath this little retainer here, and that you are on this side of this post here. And then when you've done that, you can take this face and pull it over and plug these two tubes, if you will, into their rubber receptacles there. And then when you've done that, you can let this come back in. Snap that into its corners as mentioned. And then back to this again, we've got to make sure that it's underneath those tabs and that, yep, the SD card is exposed there, so that looks good. SD card again is exposed there. So this face is on in its correct position here. And we're ready to go back on with the outer cover. We're gonna start with, again, making sure there's a ribbon that goes around, and up here you want to make sure that it's straight, that you haven't accidentally pulled this ribbon out of its receptacle here. We're going to start by putting this on this end. I think that's right. Let's see if it'll work. Yeah, I don't think we'll get over that. We're going to put it here and start here, making sure this is on tight here. And then we're going to pull this over. I have to do it from my position. I'm going to pull this over the knob and all the way down. And now we've got those snaps in the front, and they go down, snap, snap, snap. Okay. So that's all back together. We've got some more screws here. 1, 2. We'll start hand first. Okay, so if I'm missing a screw hole somewhere. Got 1, 2. I'll feel real bad if I got screws left over. 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. And boy, what a knucklehead. I'll leave that in, let you see. It's easy to make mistakes like that. Especially when you're going back in again after you thought you were done. I'm going to look for this other screw hole. Let's go, kid. All the way off. Okay. So there's the 1, 2 here, which we knew about. Ah, there it is. All right, so don't forget the screw that goes in the top of the motor mount here. Okay, now that will do. Okay, so again, we'll start from the back side. Pull this over. Make sure those are in the slots and snap it down. Okay. Now, back with the 2 screws before. 1, 2. It doesn't go in finger tight, just with fingers, something's funny. So I'm going to back it off, it'll click down one time, and we'll try to reattack. Don't like that. Okay, well, it's in the groove, not as much as I'd like it to be. Alright, it's almost done. Again, we've got, that's where it belongs, looking good everywhere. Okay, then we got this piece that, again, it's going to be up against this. It goes in here, and there's a little slider retainer there that's got to go in just like this. Okay, wrong. Goes in just like this. No. It has to go this way. Because that's where the tank is. Okay. So if it doesn't fit right away, you have to twist this so that this flat part is on this side. Now it will slide on in there, he says. Okay, we'll turn it the other way. Oh. And it's in there, and then we'll slide that back. So it's pointing up. All right. So we've got our 2 rubber gaskets on the inside that will seat on the end of the tank there. And we take the face, the last final pretty face, and snap it on the top first and on the bottom. That's it. And you start it all. If you look on the bottom, there's a little tab in there. That's where you grab it and pop that face off. And the 4 screws that are left over then is 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll go back down by hand again. Problem with plastic is you go in and out too many times, and next thing you know, you pulled a bunch of threads out. Much better. Okay, here's what it is. We're going down. Okay, we'll go from here to the bedside, put a filter in, hook up the hoses. Just gonna double check that. Yep, looks good. Feels good. Nice and snug. Okay. Tight. Tight. It's done. Mine has an extra little nipple on the tank on this side because I use the SoClean, which pumps O3 in, which is as good as bleach. All right, the CPAP is placed into operation. It's got a new filter has already been put in it. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to put my nose pillows on. I got mine set up so that when I breathe, it turns the system on. So I'm going to take some breaths here. And tramping up to my prescription, which is 8. And I'm breathing. And I am proud to say it is fixed. I will be able to sleep without noise tonight. Yeehaw.